This is the one thing that pretty much everyone who tries to overwinter peppers fails at, and it's a must-do step. Today, we're gonna look at how to overwinter peppers from your garden. Now, you're probably wondering, Ashley, why would I overwinter peppers when I can just very simply start them from seed? My answer to you is you don't have to overwinter peppers, but what I will say is that in a colder climate like Canada or just in the northern US, having a plant that is bigger, that already has a relatively large root mass, will result in higher pepper yields in the seasons to come. However, overwintering peppers is not the easiest thing to do, and a lot of people fail at it just because they are skipping some steps. So that's what we're gonna look at here today, on how to overwinter peppers and make sure you're not bringing pests into your house, which is important if you have houseplants or you're doing any sort of indoor gardening. And yeah, so let's jump into it. So step one, and probably the most important step, is picking the pepper and starting the overwintering process at the right stage in the pepper's life cycle. So first thing you're gonna look for is flowers. You wanna make sure there's no new flowers popping up. This one has no new flowers popping up. This one over here also does not have any new flowers popping up. That is a good sign for both of them. The second thing you're actually gonna look for is signs of dormancy or winding down. So all plants do this, whether they're perennials in tropical locations or deciduous type plants in cooler climates. Everything begins to shut down and go into a dormant period. As the days become shorter and shorter, the temperatures begin to decline. Everything kind of goes into like a sleepy period. It's very normal. So, and that includes peppers. Now, the sign that your pepper plant is going dormant is leaves changing color, similar to that of an actual tree. And peppers will also stop putting on foliage. So if they're not stopping, if their leaves aren't changing color, then they're for sure going to stop putting on new. The sign you see will be completely dependent on where you are. So if you are getting really cold nights, so below 10 degrees Celsius, then the leaves will begin to change, such as what we're seeing here. If you're in a climate that's a little bit warmer, then, or you have the plants on a little bit warmer of an area, your night times aren't getting low, but your hours are starting to decrease, the number of daytime hours, then your plant will just stop new growth and your leaves may not change. So I know where I am, my nights are getting cold, my days are getting shorter, and so my leaves will change. They change without fail. So that is the sign, the signal I'm looking for to determine if my peppers are ready to be overwintered. So this guy he's a pale kind of green. I can see even more color coming out, him almost turning yellow, which is a sign that he's ready to go to sleep. This guy, he is not ready to go to sleep. He is very much still awake, so we are actually going to need to leave him until he decides it's time to go nighty-night. So the crazy part about that is that where we are, sometimes not all peppers are able to overwinter, and it's not species dependent, it's literally just plant dependent. So these are both jalapenos. That one is, I might not be able to overwinter it. It may get hit with frost before it gets anywhere near to shutting down, whereas this one is showing signs. So if you are noticing things aren't shutting down, if you try to take that pepper in, it's pretty likely it's not going to make it. Just a heads up there. So step one is actually going to be removing the leaves. I know it sounds scary, but you're going to completely defoliate this plant and remove every last one. Now there's a few reasons for this. Reason number one is the leaves that are here are designed to be taking the intensity of the sun. They are not designed to be taking grow lights on. They also have been exposed to pests, which nobody wants pests in their house, and bringing those indoors is just going to cause more issues. And if there is a pest outbreak on this plant, such as mealy bugs, then it's easier to treat a stem plant. Now, you have energy. Your plant has lots of energy. It doesn't need the leaves, particularly when it's shutting the leaves down, to keep it going. There's a lot of storage in the roots of any plant. And so the key here is actually just making sure our roots are happy and healthy, not so much that the plant is happy and healthy or that the leaves are happy and healthy. So I'm going to remove all of these leaves off. compost them, feed them to the wormies, and I'll show you what this plant should look like once you're done defoliating it. Okay, so this is the end result. You can tell it's very bare. There's no leaves anywhere on it. I even took the time to kind of go into these spaces and really make sure there's no new leaves popping up and stripping those away. Now, the next step is actually going to be transferring the plant to a different container that is smaller. So I have mine in 5 gallon pail buckets. You don't have to keep them in this. You could transfer them into something a little bit tinier. Because the plant is going dormant, it's not going to be using a lot of water, and you're going to keep some light on it, and you will notice some growth, but I would rather you be continually watering, like on a regular basis, than having like a self-watering bucket or something that's larger in size. So I am going to go down to about half the size of a container if I have one somewhere available. And the other thing here is actually really cleaning off the roots of all the soil that's in this container and getting some new sterile soil. Very important, because there's a lot of eggs inside of this soil right now because it was outdoors. Probably has things like mealybugs or aphids or flea beetles, you name it, inside of here. So we don't want to bring that inside, and we want to start off with nice fresh soil that's been bagged and hasn't been exposed to our outdoor environments. So the best way to get this out, you're gonna have some popping, you're gonna have some roots breaking, is to feel. So I like to stick my hands in. I'm just gonna put the camera down so you can actually see me groping this thing. So I just stick my fingers in and I try to feel if I have resistance or not. And if I'm not feeling resistance, I just give it a nice light tug. So I'm getting lots of resistance, not so much resistance on the sides, but lots of resistance down below. And I just keep digging until I hit the bottom of the root ball. And you'll know when you get there because that tug will have way less popping and it'll sound almost more like what the sides do. So he grew this way almost. You can feel from the roots here. And you're not going to get all the roots. You just want most of them. Remember, he doesn't need all the roots because he just lost all his leaves. He doesn't have to support as much. And there you go. So this is the root ball I have. Depending on how big your tree is, you may need more. As you start getting into bigger kind of bush plants, you may need to bring everything in, including the old soil. If you choose to do that route, I would highly suggest getting your hands on some predatory mites or predatory nematodes, to put into that soil to really help prevent against any pests coming indoors, because the pests, while there's no leaves, will still try to whittle away and sap suck at the stems, as well as attack any indoor gardening that you're doing. So this is what I'm going to do to clean off the roots as good as possible. And if you wanted, you could go ahead and spray this down with water, but I'm not going to do that because this was below the soil surface. You can see, like I said, I could feel this. I could feel him growing more. Well, it would have been this way. So he was growing more this way. You can see all these auxiliary roots on the side and then nothing on this side. So how interesting. Why did you choose to do that? I'm assuming that this may have been more shaded because it was in a really hot spot. So I feel like it's probably really hot on this side. So it said, no way, Jose, I'm not putting roots over there. So it put all the work onto this side of the container. But okay, nerd brain over. This is what's getting transplanted. So if you can't transplant right away, you could just put this into a Ziploc bag with like the bottom portion with a little bit of water. That would be fine. We want to reduce their exposure to air because air and roots do not mix. It actually stuns them and kills them off a little bit. Air pruning, it's a whole thing that can be valuable or not valuable depending on what your goals are. Now, what you're gonna do with this seemingly dead plant is you are gonna put it under grow lights, and you're gonna wanna put it in a section where it's away from your houseplants just to be sure that there's no disease, no pests that will infiltrate your indoor space. And once you get a grow light on it, you're going to notice leaves are going to start popping up, completely normal. But overall, we don't want to water that often. So we want to keep things pretty darn dry. You're going to assess when to water. So if you're noticing leaves drooping, it's time to water. And if you're not noticing leaves drooping, just let it be. Very normal process. You may notice some die off of these stems, completely normal. If you wanted to, and you wanted to force more bushing of your pepper plant, you could cut it off lower. So you can see how this wide off here because this was topped. You can top it again on these lower lengths if you want to support more branching in your pepper and really design the pepper bush in the way that you want it to be. But the key here is not to just take this and put it into cold storage. It does need light. It is not meant to be in an environment where lights just turn off, the cold turns on. We want to keep it in a space that has light and the plant is receiving still some water. Not much, but still we want some water. And if it puts on new leaves, use the leaves to guide you as to whether or not you need to water. Or you can actually get the Earth One plant sensor that I helped design, and that will tell you when to water. Actually, that's probably the most foolproof method. It'll also tell you when to anyways, it's a cool little doodad. So yeah, that's what you guys are gonna do. It looks goofy, but that's how you get them to survive. And that number one key is making sure that the plant is going into dormancy. If it's not, it's going to be very, very difficult to preserve it indoors. So I hope this helped you guys out. If it did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.